Flames are in Nashville tomorrow. The Predators, what did we say? 6 straight losses?
I think they're 0-4-3 their last 7.
Something like that. Is it irresponsible to talk about Andrew Brunette? Does it coaching change anything there? What are you hearing, or what's your sense on what's happened in Nashville? It's been a disaster.
I think it's the last thing Barry Trotz would like to do, to be honest. And I did hear over the weekend that they were pretty deep in conversations with a few different teams on potential moves. I think they're kind of paralyzed right now, is my understanding, that they'd like to do something. They don't quite know what the right move to make is. Is it possible to salvage this season? Do we need to make a coaching change? These are all legitimate questions that the Preds are asking themselves, and Barry Trotz is today. I mean, it's about as ugly as it could possibly get. And we've now reached this point where it is a significant mathematical improbability that this team could even make their way back into the playoff chase. It's kind of that far gone.
One guy saw it coming.
One guy.
Just one, Frank.
Just one guy.
I did not. And I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Like I picked the Preds to finish second in the division, and I was thinking that this team with this much better collection of talent would be better than they were last year, which ended up being a pretty decent team that probably should have beat the Canucks in the first round. That now you look at it, I don't know how they get back up from here. They're old and they're committed, and if you didn't make it in year 1 of this build, year 4 is going to look 8 times worse.
Yeah, you got to expect diminishing returns from the guys that are getting deeper into their 30s. How then do we judge what Barry Trotz has done? We've liked his aggressiveness. He won the offseason, which seems to be a kiss of death. It's like winning the Jack Adams. Did he overplay the hand? Is there a way he can get out of this mess without eating salary along the way? None of these guys have lived up to it.
Well, I think the thing is, what surprises me the most is that is how quickly they changed. Because I mean, I'm not exaggerating here. It was 13 months ago. You can go back and listen to it. I was at Hall of Fame weekend. I had him on my podcast, and he said, "We're 3 years away from being a good team. We're rebuilding. We're working through it." And then they went on this unbelievable 15-game run last year and actually looked on the other end of it like a pretty decent team. And I think they either got intoxicated or swayed by that, thinking, hey, maybe we're not that far away. And then first came the Saros extension, which I thought was a long time to extend a guy that turns 30 when it starts. Then these other moves that took place, and they didn't really address any of the core fundamental issues of the team, which are, hey, we don't have any centers here. Ryan O'Reilly is a nice piece, but he's a 3C on a true contending team. And that's a really tough spot to be in now after spending all that, to then turn around and kind of like, I don't know if he said the quiet part out loud, but saying, hey, we might have to rebuild. Like, you were already on the path to rebuilding. Then you made a sudden right turn. And then all of a sudden, now you're back to where you began. That can't possibly be the case. It almost kind of reminds me of the Ottawa Senators trading for Matt Duchene and then 6 months later declaring that they were going to rebuild. Like, if you're going to have a plan, you got to stick with it and be consistent. And you can't sway from that. And I think that's the biggest thing that the Preds are guilty of more than anything.
They have 3 firsts, which is intriguing. How could that help them? Because clearly those are very valuable assets. Their own pick looks incredibly high this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one kind of perplexing thing I would say is you could unload those picks right now and undoubtedly make your team better. But are you convinced that moving those picks is the right play to try and salvage the damage that you've already done to your own roster? Or is the organization from a holistic perspective actually better off taking their medicine, keeping all 3 picks, and unfortunately for them, happens to be in what many consider to be a below average draft class, and go through that process and wait 3 to 5 years before those guys are actually making an impact if you hit on them? Or do you just blow it all up and say, we're committed? It's like poker. Hey, we're pot committed. We've got this group that we've signed $100 million to in the offseason. We've got to try and fix it. I truly don't know what the right answer is, because even in a perfect world, if you hit on those picks, it still might be a long time before they help you.
So
you might not even be in the role anymore.
So is it a talent issue or a chemistry issue or a coaching issue? I mean, all of those issues, why aren't they better?
It's not a cop-out to say I think that it's all of those things. I really do think there's a hole in that roster at center.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a chemistry issue. I don't think Steven Stamkos is right. It's not to say he doesn't want to be part of the solution or anything like that. I think this move has been way harder on him than he would even let in on. I can start to see just in French translation, reading between the lines about Jonathan Marchessault and how he's been frustrated with all these different line mates that he's been playing with. So you read between the lines, and then that brings you then to the coach. Is the coach getting the most out of this group? Like, I think all three of those things are factors at once.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.